Well, first of all, if someone's thinking like that, how do I be successful? I think that's awesome because you're different.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to be successful. So a lot of people are just okay with just being par for the course and being average. And I'll work until whenever, and I'll stay in my parents' basement until whenever or whatever. Right. So first of all, recognize that you're different, and that's awesome. We want you to be successful. How do you break out and be different? Well, first of all, you got to start hanging around with different people and get really clear on what you want, right? A lot of people are just like, they know what they don't want. They can make a list of things. These are all the things I don't want in my life. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's like that actually gets them to what they want, right? So,
yeah,
because they're so focused on like, man, I just don't like this. I don't like that. Okay, make a list of all that stuff. And then what's the opposite of those things?
All right, Kory, we are live, brother. How you doing?
Hey, doing awesome, man.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. How was the drive all the way from
Sarnia?
Like
Over 3 hours. Over 3 hours. Driving in the Porsche, we shaved off a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Cheers, brother.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be
in the
good.
Office. No more virtual.
Yes. I'm excited to do this.
Doing this in person for sure.
So I want to kind of cover three main things with you, but we're going to probably go into like 10, 20 different things, right? But I want to touch on the economy, what your thoughts are on it, just some of the mindset stuff that you're doing and how you're coaching your clients. And then we'll get into your business. Like, what are you doing? How are you growing it? How are you expanding it? And especially in a market that's contracting, and what are you doing? So what are you doing in the economy right now? What are you seeing your students doing in the economy right now? Because there's a lot of fear out there right now. There's a lot of people who are hurting. There's a lot of people who are pulling back. There's a lot of people probably will never come back into the market again, just with everything that's happened, right? And it's almost like a bit of a reset that's happening, which I think is, in a way, can be good. But let me hear your thoughts. What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, it's things like this need to happen. It's almost like a cleansing. It's like when there's a rainstorm out there, it cleanses the earth, and that's kind of what we're going through right now. This is definitely very messed up because a lot of this is man-made. It's not like the economy. They printed so much money and they've waited too long to, work with the rates and everything like that. So it is very, very interesting, and it's hard to just get people to leave their houses these days, man. Like a lot of people are turtling. A lot of people are they're afraid. They're watching the dollars and their expenses, and they don't know how to make money outside of their day job, right? So they don't have a side hustle. They don't have really anything, or they're afraid to start one.
Yep.
So, but a lot of our students are different because they came to us because they want a side hustle. They want to be generating extra income on the side. So I'm a real estate coach, and we help other people to buy real estate and stuff too. So there's still deals out there. Like, I mean, you see, like, you're a realtor, you look at the board every single day, like people are still transacting. I think they have to be just more creative. They have to look harder. I guess the joke that I kind of say is everybody's working twice as hard to get half as much right now, but it's not going to be like that forever. And, I mean, if you would have told me like this is what we're dealing with 3 years ago, I think I would have been like, you're crazy, whatever. But I mean, this is what's happened, and there's still a high demand for real estate. Like it's, we need more units in Canada. There's people coming in all the time. So I'm still, very bullish on real estate. I still believe in real estate. That's why I'm not getting out of it. I'm not selling everything. But if people went in without the right fundamentals, without knowing their numbers, without being conservative, without having contingencies, plan A, plan B, plan C, and not being too aggressive. I mean, they're going to be hurting right now. Yeah. So
there's a couple different things there that you touched on there. So one, it being man-made. And obviously, we were going through COVID. They had to print a lot of money. The interest rates dropped to where they probably should have never been. That opened up so many people to get into real estate investing. Like, Kory, there was a point in time when my phone would not stop ringing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I saw all these gurus popping up. Then all of a sudden now you had people leaving their full-time jobs because they did a perfect bird. I'm like, this can't last forever.
No.
It was just such an incredible gravy train. And when you start going to the barbershop, and now that your barber's giving you tips on real estate investing, there's something up, right? Yep. And I think the thing that, and you touched on as well, too, just right at the end there, is the fundamentals. People were just not doing the basic fundamentals of the importance of cash flow and where are they purchasing these properties, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Making money on the buy is one of the most important things. Like, location's important. Making money on the buy, I think it's even more important.
Yeah.
And we never expected things to compensate so much the other way. Now rates are high. I was just talking to someone that was doing car financing. I'm like, what are you guys approving cars at these days? It's like 10%. I mean, mortgages are 6, 7,
Yeah.
or more.
But you also
Crazy.
said something as well too, which was important, is that you can go out there and you can make deals. I think this is the
for
first
sure
time
you
I've been excited now to purchase properties, because there's deals out there. I can actually sit down, take my time, look at it, run the numbers, do the fundamentals. And is that what you're seeing some of your more experienced students doing right now? Like, what are they doing? Did they kind of pull back a bit and just kind of watch to see what was happening? And now are you starting to see them getting back in?
Yeah, I mean, it's harder for people to string together multiple deals, right? Like you used to be able to, recycle cash and keep getting into more and more properties, right? So for some people that only have a certain amount of gunpowder, they've kind of used up their gunpowder. And I think people need to realize that their success in real estate investing shouldn't only be marked on acquisitions, right? It's like, oh, how many doors do you have, right? It's people always want to ask you that, and it's nice to talk about that. It gives you a sense of that person, but that shouldn't be the only marker of like how smart they are when it comes to real estate investing, what they're building up for, what they have like cash assembled, and what they're ready to do, right? So I think it's a great time for people to learn. Whenever the market's going down and people aren't interested in it, it's a great time to actually do the opposite of what other people are doing. Go all in, like try to build your skill sets up around this, build up your power team around this, learn how to find deals, learn who actually controls the inventory, who are the real players, who are the realtors that actually, transact the most, like you guys, right? So it's so important. But yeah, expensive markets will still be expensive.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to buy in downtown Toronto, like things like down there for multifamily. I'm just not all that interested. But some of these like more what I call value markets, they're really coming back online. Like even places like Chatham or Sudbury or London, like some of these markets that got overheated, they're definitely coming back down to reality again. And the numbers make sense even at these higher interest rates. And they really make sense once interest rates start to come down next year.
Yeah, I agree. On our side, the big market that we were playing in for quite some time was Durham region. Yeah. Then we also moved out into Peterborough in 2017.
Yes.
And those prices are back down to where they need to be, and you can make them work. And I was actually talking to a client yesterday, and he went out with one of my realtors, and called her up, or she called me up, and she goes, Gary, he's not going to make a move. He's kind of new, but he also got burnt recently just with the interest rates going up high. He's in a variable rate. And he goes, yeah, you know what? The interest rates that I'm getting quoted on right now are 7%. So that's a deal breaker for me. And I was like, okay, let me jump on. Let me have a conversation with them. And really what you're saying to some of these new investors, that who cares what the interest rates are? It's irrelevant. It could be 7%. It could be 12%. Do the numbers work? What are the fundamentals? Is it going to cash flow? Because if you can make it work at these numbers,
lock it in.
You got a great deal, right? And is that what you're kind of sitting down and talking to your students with right now? Like on just fundamentals and VTBs? Let's jump into VTBs too.
Totally. Because like a lot of people just go, well, the first sniff test didn't work, right? So it's I looked at the purchase price, I looked at the rents, and I looked at the mortgage. It just doesn't work. Well, ask yourself, how can it work, right? So many people don't ask themselves, how can this work? Yeah, maybe you got to be a little bit creative with the buyer. Maybe you got to look at the expenses and you got to lower those and you got to increase the rents, right? So, I mean, in my own portfolio, I'm looking to optimize a lot of things right now. Like we're turning units over and we're doing the right renovations to get the right amount of rent. We're maybe not going all to town, but I think people lost the thrift ability too throughout things. They're just like, oh yeah, I'll just do a full gut job reno, or I'll do this. I'm like, I've always been thrifty, man. My mom and my dad taught me how to stretch a dollar.
Right.
And people need to learn that too when they're looking at a deal. But how can this be a deal? Maybe we got to be creative here. Maybe we got to be creative there. Maybe we got to get some terms. But a lot of people don't know about this stuff, right? Yeah. And they, some of it's out there, but creativity is very important. How can we get the owner to hold some money? How can we maybe get vacant units? How can we do highest and best use of the building? How can we do all that and then 5 more things?
Right. Yeah. So being thrifty, being creative, optimizing the properties that you currently have, and not just hoping a deal is going to land in your lap. Like go out there and make a deal.
Yeah.
Go out there and negotiate. Right.
Find it too, right? If your vision, if your intention is so strong, a lot of people's visions and their intentions and their dreams and their everything have been shattered, right? And they're just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to kind of go through the motions every single day. But if you're one of those kinds of people that just don't take no for an answer, I know I'm not. I'm sure you aren't either. Like you will find a way. You turn over enough rocks, you talk to enough people, just human psychology and everything that's going on right now, it's going to come your way. right? So I'm sure there's been times in your life where you've just been very intentional and like you're just so focused on something and the universe gives it to you. So energy is a real thing, intention's a real thing, motivation, vision, all these things will come together for people to make things happen.
Vision is so important, and your why. You know, my wife and I, we just sat down not too long ago, and we actually went through our whiteboard. We're a little late with it, but anyways, we jotted it down. Actually, no, sorry, we're a little early with it. We're a lot earlier than we typically are, but because we're going to be down in Mexico for 3 weeks. And this is such a great time to sit down, look at what our visions are, and then we actually check off what we completed and what we didn't complete, and we actually put a percentage down. Like, so we completed 38% of like some of these big goals that we wanted to. And I think just because things shifted so quick and so fast that, hey, at least I know that I did some stuff this year.
Well, you're keeping track.
Exactly.
It's important to keep track.
100%. We take a picture of it, file it away, and then we now say, what are we doing for the new year? And then we get to argue. I don't want to do this, and you want to, and then, but we put it all down, and now we know this is where we're going. And I think that's really important, right? Is when you have those big visions, I think this is where you're going with it, is that it allows you to go through the tough times, right? Yeah. It allows you to, it pulls you through those difficult moments in your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I mean, not everybody's folding their cards. Not everybody's giving up. I mean, look at some of the biggest companies in the world. They're not taking no for an answer. They're finding a way to provide more value. They're finding a way to, keep, customers coming in the door or whatever it might be, right? So if they can do it, we can do it too.
Yep.
So just because they're a Fortune 500 and they got deep pockets, I can be more resourceful. I can be, thrifty, and I can make this happen too,
Yep.
right? So at the end of the day, I mean, it's just about how many people are you staying in touch with, right? It's a game of ping pong, and it's a contact sport. But so many people aren't playing contact sport at all anymore, So I'm old school like you. I'm in my 40s. And, business used to be done like this, in person, shaking hands. And if you didn't have the answer, it's like, who do you know that might have the answer for this? Like, who could I call? Who do you know that I should know? What would you do in my situation? Do you know a guy? Like, all these things, it's so much better asked in person as opposed to text messaging and all these other things.
I agree. And that's one of the things that I've started doing again, is going back out and doing more networking. Like, when things were busy, I just didn't have the time to do it. But now that things have slowed down, people will say, are you still busy? Yeah, I'm busy, but I'm busy doing a lot of other things. Maybe not as much transactions as we did before.
Yeah, you're just at an event yesterday. I was trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I'm out there. I'm actually bumping elbows and talking to people and seeing what they're doing and getting some new nuggets, and how are people moving through the economy the way that it is right now. And I think that's important. And I just recently brought in a couple agents onto my team, and they're like, is now a good time, Gary? Like, should we really do this now? And I'm like, yes, this is the best time. Don't do it when things are great. You want to do it when things are down, because now you'll learn how to grind.
To become an agent?
Yeah, become an agent, or even a business or whatever it is. But you'll learn the hard work in those difficult times, right?
Yeah, and you'll be grateful for the commissions and any revenue that you bring in.
Right? So exactly, for sure. Crystal ball, where do you see things going in the next year or two? And then number two, to add to that, is that something that you even worry about? Like, are you looking at unemployment rates? Are you looking at where the interest rates are going? Are you looking at all those kind of things that are coming out? Because there's a lot of information coming out right now, Kory.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, the headlines are terrible. I mean, I used to subscribe when I was younger. I used to subscribe to like 3 different newspapers, because I'm like, I just want to learn and I want to absorb so much and read the Financial Post and read, maybe the sports section too. But I've unsubscribed from all that stuff. And it's, the newspapers have always been bleeding. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
Yeah.
So, you and I can interpret it and go, okay, I understand. Like, there was something in the newspaper the other day. It's like, London has had the biggest drop of 41%. Well, they took somebody who bought way, way over ask, and they found out what it sold for in a foreclosure. And they're like, oh, London's dropped by 41%. I'm like, has it really dropped by 41%? I'm sure it's dropped a lot, because London went up like a rocket. It was one of the fastest appreciating markets in Ontario, if not Canada.
Yeah.
But when they use that kind of example, that's just a terrible example of someone that it got sold for at foreclosure through a bank during a market where nothing's really moving very much. So someone probably underbid the bank sale too, right? So, I'm an optimist at heart, and I do know things will be better in the future. Things are always better in the future. We're just going through a crazy time. I think it'll take longer to get out of this than we may have anticipated. just because they're always using old data and they reacted too slow. And but I still like real estate, man. I mean, I'm just hearing some of these stats. I was listening to a clip with Ken Beckingham. We've heard stats of like, oh, Canada needs another million units or a million and a half units. I guess CMHC is now saying like 6 million units and like $1 trillion. Like it's just, the numbers are astronomical.
I heard like 3.45 by 2030. You're talking about like how many houses we need?
Yeah, it's just,
but
a lot.
Who knows what the numbers
if you own
are?
Real
But
estate,
it's a lot.
Yeah, if you own real estate and in the right markets, I mean, you're winning. So I think for people these days, if you just thought down and said, look, let me look at what cities are growing the fastest. Let me look at what cities are also growing the fastest, but they have the best infrastructure. They have a college or a university in that area. Even if it's a satellite campus, that's still great. I mean, Milton is it's got a Laurier satellite campus being built by the National Velodrome there.
Yep.
And if you can marry up those different trends, if you can get in on a trend, like St. Thomas is building the biggest car plant in Canada right now. It's going to be ridiculous. Windsor, I actually drove by. I went to speak at a meetup in Windsor, and you've been hearing about these EV battery plants and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I drove by it and I was like, driving into Toronto, some of the stuff they're building in Windsor, I'm like, this is bigger than some of the stuff I'm driving by on the highway in Toronto. So this is real. Like when you actually go down there to see it, it's real. And their hydro demand needs to like triple in the next, or quadruple in the next like 5 to 7 years. Just the amount of hydro that area is going to need.
Yeah, that's wild.
Coming into Windsor, right? So, when you see this stuff, it's different when you're local. You take it for granted, but when you actually go down there and see some of these trends, it's amazing, right? You go into a mining city that's just blowing up. All these other areas, like go to a place that has a trend like that, and it's hard to go wrong for a while. But maybe it's not going to last forever. So you go in for 5, 7 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Sell.
And that's a good point there, Kory. Is that people get so caught up in reading the newspaper, and then what you're saying is you're driving, you're actually seeing things with your eyes visually, as opposed to reading something that somebody wrote down on a piece of paper and then kind of believing that, where you're reading things where their whole market is about driving fear. But you're saying, hey, why don't you jump in the car, drive around, see what's actually happening, see what they're building, because they're doing the same out here. There's massive things that are being built. And you got to look at that and say, hey, real estate, this is real. Like, they don't call it real estate because it's not real estate. It's real. It's real. And they call them landlords because they're lords of the land.
Yeah.
So own some of that stuff, right? And don't be scared. This reminds me of 2008. I smell fear in the market. And that's a good time to buy. Yeah. So don't be scared.
I think it is impacting Canada more. I mean, this has impacted everybody more. Back in 2008 to 2012, it was kind of like a chunk of time where it was a mess in the States. And then, the States sneezes and we get a little bit sick too. And I bought some property. Lots of things just stayed flat. Toronto had a bit of a dip around that time too. So I had some friends that were getting some good deals on some things. You could still kind of house hack back then, or get a triplex back then, or make things work closer to downtown Toronto. But it's really impacted people a lot more. It's impacted their business. It's impacted their livelihoods more. And I just heard that BMO is pulling out of car financing. They don't want to finance cars anymore. They're like, we are out.
Really?
Because they don't want to be in the car repo business. And they're, even the price of cars are coming down. During COVID, like if you had a used anything, you were a genius. You could sell it because just things weren't being made, right? The parts weren't being manufactured. There was a backlog. So things that should have been like a $30,000 vehicle was a $50,000 vehicle. Well, that's all changed now. They've caught up. So when you see the banks pulling out of that sort of stuff, it's just people are hurting. People are really trying to hide their cars so they won't get repoed, is what I heard from my friend at the car dealership. So there's going to be a lot more pain this time. And, banks are willing to work with you too. Like, Scotiabank, I heard they have a program where if you talk to the right person, you can get interest payments deferred for up to 6 months. Yeah. They will extend your AMs. They'll do all these different things because they know we'll get through this, but it's going to be messier. And we just haven't seen this before. Right. Like our parents have seen really high interest rates because that really pulled the Band-Aid off quick. Yeah. But our parents always saw double digit rates, and you should be paying down your mortgage, right? Like it was different times then. Yeah, for sure. Right. It is difficult out there. And, I think the interesting thing as well too, with this one is that, when I bought my home, my income was, or the price of my home was like 2 to 3 times my income. Now you're into that 8 to 10 times. Yeah. I think if you're closer into that hub, but you can move out of the city to get into the market. Like I get it. Like, a lot of people want to move into Toronto. I get it. I understand it. But I would never be upset if I went to Manhattan and said,
this is unfair. I can't buy a condo here. I was like, oh, well, I missed a boat. And I think that's where Toronto is probably eventually heading, where the younger generation, like, man, that's incredible. You actually bought a property in Toronto, or you bought just like on the outskirts. But I remember working at TD Bank, and I had friends that were driving in from on this side of east of Toronto, out in Coburg. And that was like an hour drive. That was a normal thing. You can go buy a place in Peterborough for like 400,000 or 500,000. They're there. Yeah. So there are ways to get into the market.
Totally.
Right?
And I mean, virtual working is more and more of a thing these days. So yeah, but it's people will always find a way. If you're motivated enough, you'll find a way. If you're not, you're going to end up becoming just a cog in the wheel. And we need those worker bees. You know, we do, but they're probably not listening to the podcast right now. So
you're probably right. Maybe one or two of them are kind of waking up, right? Eventually you do wake up. And I guess, kind of moving into the mindset piece and with everything that is happening. Kory, you have bad days. How do you get through them? Yeah. How do you get through them? Maybe even kind of get in, like, how do you kind of start your day? Because this device, this phone is an incredible thing. It can also be a very dangerous thing as well, too.
Super distracting.
Yeah, distracting. I don't think we're built to be, especially with what's happening right now over on the other side of the world in Israel and Palestine. You're not meant to see dead babies and dead people, and it's just it's so much information coming at us right now. What do you do? How do you navigate through all that and continue to keep moving forward and with your business and coaching? Because a lot.
I think the biggest thing is that our grandparents, our parents' generation, they were definitely more resilient, right? They've been through real problems, right? Like real problems. Like when I hear my parents talking about, like, we weren't really sure where our next meal was coming from, or we were just happy to have mashed potatoes or ketchup, or ketchup on white bread. I mean, it's crazy, right? And I've never been in that sort of situation before, but my parents always found a way. And for people nowadays, I think they've definitely lost the resilience because they don't go after the hard things every single day. I mean, as an athlete, I used to be a national level athlete, and like we were literally going to the gym going like, we were going to do some self-torture today. We're going to go and max out. We're going to go, you can't max out every single day, but when you do things that are just hard, like plain hard, and you get through it and you get onto the other side, all this other stuff is not that hard to really, like, we're pretty blessed, right? We live in a great country and we don't, one of those things that I saw, and I've seen some videos on this before too, we don't have problems. At the end of the day, you can go and look at people that try to live on $1 a day and they don't know where the next meal is coming from, the next, like, drink of clean water is coming from, anything, right? So we really, really don't have problems. But for some people, they go from like, okay, I'm doing pretty good, but they get knocked down on a scale of 1 to 10. Something happens to them. Call them what you want to call. Let's just use the term snowflake. Okay, so snowflakes melt pretty easily. Yeah. They go from like I'm doing okay today. It's like I'm an 8 out of 10. Something happens. They don't get the sale. They don't get whatever it might be. Okay, now they get knocked down to a 2. Well, for people that just don't get knocked down as easy, it's like if I don't get the sale, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I went from an 8 to a 7.5. Like, it's not a big deal. I never had it anyways. I'm sure I could maybe get it. It's just a no, not like no right now. I can do follow-up. I can nurture. I can like show them value. I can like find out what happened, all these different things, right?
Right.
But it's when people get knocked down a lot and then they stay down there, right? I'm going to go live at a 2 and I just don't know how to get back up to 7 or 8 again. Those are people that are having issues right now because I believe that they just haven't had enough resilience in their life. They've never failed before. In my past career, we used to do a lot of hiring, right? I was in a student-based company. We'd hire people and teach them how to run a 6-figure painting company or window cleaning company,
right?
In that same year, right? From scratch. And one of the biggest questions we asked during the interview process was, tell me about your biggest failure and how'd you get through it? And, or tell me about your most difficult job. And if people have never had a job before they came to us before, because some families really shelter their kids, and they're like, no, your job is school. You do really good in school and then you can get a job after. I'm like, that might work for you. But man, I was getting jobs in grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
I always try to find a way to make some money. And you're failing forward the whole time. You're not epic failing, but you're having these little micro failures and you just get used to it. It's like, okay, just learn to be Teflon, learn to like let things slide off of you. Because when you let it affect you and you go from like an 8, 10, 9, 8 down to a 2 and you live down there, and we're emotional creatures, right? Like, we can all get impacted, but we're talking like minutes or maybe hours, but don't let it affect you for days.
Yeah.
right? That's how you get into a really dark place. That's how you stay at home. That's how you're just not getting out there and doing anything, moving the ball down the road at all. At the end of the day, we have one life to live, and we're super blessed. So many opportunities. I mean, just driving for 3 hours on the way to the office, like I'm just, wow, I'm curious, right? I drive with the radio off, or I'm talking to people on the phone. I'm just like soaking it in. Like, imagine, wonder what's happening in that business. That business that looks like it's from the 1970s. I wonder what they're doing there. Wow, that one just got built. They must be doing some cutting edge stuff there, right? It's just like, be curious, be positive. It's so important.
It's so true. I took my team out to Niagara Falls. It was a Kathleen Black event, and it's just really kind of to help get them caught up to speed, coaching. I'm really big on that, and I know you are as well too in mentorship. And I had to leave on a Tuesday, and I decided to leave at 3:30 p.m. Kory, okay, so you know what's happening at 3:30 p.m. rush hour.
Yeah.
My wife is
You're
like,
trying to get
why?
to Niagara Falls.
Yeah, she's like, why are you doing this? Like, you could do the 407. I'm like, nah, I want to do the 401. I want to do the 401 because I want to remember why I left the corporate world. And it took me 4 hours. It took me 4 hours to get there. But you know what? I planned it out. I was like, hey, I got a list of people I got to call. There's a couple podcasts I can listen to, set everything up, and I was good. You know what's road rage is out there? I just let people in. Hey, no problem. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because I had other things. It was just like, yeah, it's just like, you can design your day, you can design what's happening, and you could either be completely upset with it, or you can just accept what's happening and realize that, hey, I'm either put myself through this for a particular reason, or what can I learn from this? And then when I got to Niagara, finally got to Niagara, and the rest of my team left at like 6:30, got there like in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, why did you do this? And I told them. And but it allowed me to kind of reflect.
Sometimes you need time in your own head, man.
Yeah, it allowed me to reflect on why I did what I did, and I'm 100% grateful for it. And I think that's kind of what you're touching on there.
For sure. Yeah, just remember, people, like, we don't really have problems, right? You want to go look at people that don't have arms, don't have legs, we really don't have problems. And I got that from a comedian. I wish I could remember her name. She literally had so much trauma in the beginning of her life. She was run over by a vehicle. And she gets on stage and she jokes about it. She laughs about it. She's like, we don't have problems. I had problems, but I don't have problems today.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't.
Yeah,
we really don't. We have so many opportunities. We're so blessed. And there's, technology, AI, you name it. It's like,
use it to your advantage.
For sure. These phones, crazy.
Yeah.
And yes, these are highly distractive. So I guess you had a question around my morning routine. I don't have these big, long, elaborate morning routines. For me, it's about waking up and just getting something checked off the list, and
Eat that frog first.
For sure, because you have the most willpower, the most energy in the morning, and it's one of those things where our phone's distracted. So I keep my phone on airplane mode. Like, at night, you should really be putting your phone on airplane mode so you can sleep better, and the radio waves aren't blasting you all night long either. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, you turn it on when you're actually ready to use the phone.
Yep.
Right. But too many people wake up and they just start scrolling. Why don't you wake up and start working on that email you're supposed to do, work on that blog you're supposed to do, working on that email that's supposed to go out. I mean, get working on the harder stuff.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, make a plan for the day, as opposed to just scrolling.
Yeah. Plan your day before you start your day, right? And Eat That Frog, what I'm referring to is a book by Brian Tracy, just tackling that big thing first, right? And getting out of the way, because it feels like at least you've accomplished something big for the day.
Yep.
Right?
If you leave that for the end of the day, it's like, oh my gosh, like, we always think we can get a lot done after 6 p.m., but it's our energy starts to fade and it starts to wane. So leave some of the easy stuff for the end of the day, but not the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to have a different, like, some people are morning people. I'm not like a 5 a.m. person. Okay. I've tried it.
Me too.
I am just not a 5 a.m. person. I'm waking up between 6:30 and 7 every single day. And I'm more of like a diesel train. I can go till like 11, 12 at night, and slow and steady. But I've just got that diesel. I just put it in 4th gear and I just keep going. I can put it in 5th gear if I want. I can rev it down in 3rd gear if I want. But everybody's got to know where their sweet spot is, even for workouts, right? Like, if you wake up first thing in the morning, you jump out of bed and you go for a workout. First of all, hopefully you're doing like low intensity workout, because your spine is not even like decompressed yet. And some people get injured in the morning because they're actually too loose. Their body's too loose, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're sitting down for like a couple hours and you get up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go work out right now. Like, you can seriously mess up your body because you've just been like, your body is used to sitting down.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like later morning, I could do workouts. My best performances were always in the evening, So if I'm going to go do like a max effort or a I don't know, try to get a PB or something like that, it's not going to be at like 6 a.m.
Right.
by any means, right? So you got to know your body. And once you know yourself, right, you probably spend the first 25 years of your life just getting to know yourself, but run with that, play with that, right? Like, don't try to fight it. Everybody's got their own unique abilities, their own unique talents, right? But then they go listen to a podcast like someone who's buying, I don't know, storage facilities in the United States of whatever and VTBs. And it's like, I want to go do what that guy did. It's like, no, you just hijacked your own vision and your own dreams for that podcast. Go and do your dream, your vision, because it can happen if you just are really focused on that and you're not willing to waver from that at all. And you look at like, what am I good at? What are my values? What do I respect the most in life? I'm just going to go all in on that.
How do you do that though, Kory? How do you carve that out? Because I think that's a big issue that a lot of people have. Right? They see this, you see that, and all of a sudden they got this, what you call your shiny stone syndrome. You've talked about this many times.
Object, shiny pen, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? How do you figure that out?
Well, let's identify that real estate is a place where there's a lot of shiny objects, right? So it's also like business too. It's like, what business could I get into?
Yeah.
Restaurant, laundromat, vending route, like you name it, right?
Yeah.
Especially now with AI and everything coming into the picture. But the things that we do with our people, and one of the most powerful exercises that I ever did was someone gave me a deck of cards. It was a deck of 50 values. They're like, take this deck and sort it into 2 piles, right? And if anybody ever wants this, just reach out to me. I'll send you a PDF of it. I'm not shipping these decks of cards all over the place, but it was 50 values, and they could be like education versus knowledge. To some people that means pretty similar things, but to me it's pretty different. Or wealth versus rich. So you sort them into 2 piles, maybe 25 and 25. These are, kind of like me, or there's some that are really like me. These are definitely not like, so you just get half the deck away from me. Then you look at that other half of the deck. Okay, I got to narrow this down to my top 10. So you're throwing some cards away. You got some maybes and whatever. So you narrow your values down to your top 10. And then that really needs to be your North Star. That is literally your 5 to 10 year business plan. Most of them aren't really going to change. Like your value, what you valued today, you probably valued 10, 20 years ago. So if you're always making your decisions based on your value, you're not going to get hijacked by other people's dreams and what they're pursuing, because they're a different person, right? They have different unique talents and strengths and abilities and reference points. And maybe they're a second generation of something or other, right? So yeah, go run with that.
Right.
But when you're really clear on who you are and what you should really be doing in this earth, then you just got to learn to say no. It's like, hey, that sounds cool. Not right now. I'm really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And sometimes business and life is boring, right? Like just going, you look back at like McDonald's sells burgers and fries and Coke, man. Like whenever they try to stray to something else like pizza or salads or whatever, they come back to their number ones.
Yeah.
What are the things that work really well for you, really well for me, or really well for the listener right now? You're probably going to have 1 or 2 things that you do really well at. So just keep doing that thing. It's going to be boring. That's okay. You can go hire some other people to do the boring stuff. You can do a little bit more of the exciting stuff, or leave your exciting part of your life for drinking scotch with Gary on Real Talk with Gary.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I agree with that.
Repeat.
Yeah. It's trying to find a way to work in your genius. And I think so here's another question then. So
many people don't get to work in their genius very much, right? If you ask most people on this podcast, what percentage of your time do you work in your genius? It's probably 10 or 20%.
Right.
How can you get that to like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70? That's when you're really going to take off.
Is it easy to find your genius? Do you know where that genius is? And the reason why I'm asking this is that, I've been told, like even for myself, like public speaking, I don't like it, but I do it. I keep pushing myself. Yeah.
You're a storyteller.
Right. And so it's like, is it a matter of chiseling it out sometimes to find your genius because the gift is in the chiseling out, or does it come very easy? You know what I'm saying? Like it's I've asked this question a few times. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, you can, because lots of times we just don't know our blind spots, and sometimes our blind spots are our geniuses too. So you can ask your closest network, like, hey, what am I really great at? You can do personality profile tests and stuff too. But probably the best things is when you look back in life, what was I really good at?
Mm-hmm.
And history doesn't lie. History repeats itself. So if you're really good at certain things, then why not do more of that? Or like, how did I get my success in life? Okay, I was checking this box, checking that box, checking that box. Maybe I should check more of those boxes on a regular basis, right? What are things that fill me up? And at the end of the day, people are usually more of a visionary, or they're a good manager. Like they're good with managing people and projects, or they're good at like, they're really tactical. Like I am like literally doing the stuff, and you can make good money at all those different levels. Right. And we all need all three of those. That's the entrepreneur triangle, or the E-myth, right?
Right.
So the E-myth is like, people think that I can do everything as an entrepreneur, where you can't. You got to have that, like that franchise triangle of the visionary, the manager, and the implementer. It's so important, right?
I like that. I don't think I've heard about the E-myth before, but it makes sense though, right? Yeah, you get the visionary, you get the managers, and you get the doers, right?
Yeah.
And you're the visionary, I take it.
I balance, but I'm kind of like, the more I look at it, I'm like 30-40% visionary, but it's not my number one. I'm good with being a manager. Like you give me a system that's already put in place. You give me someone that's already helped to free up my brain with the vision. Because sometimes I do struggle a little bit with vision, right? I struggle with thinking big enough. Like, so if I hitch my trailer to someone who's thinking really big, I'm like, yeah, just show me the plan. Give me a team. I will freaking manage that team. I will work, we will just optimize, and we'll keep like keeping people motivated and stuff like that. But I do need the team members. I need the specialists. Like, who's the person that can actually do that thing? Great. Let's make a system for you. I will give you I'll give you the nurturing and the leadership and all that sort of stuff. Right. So yeah, you need all three.
Right.
And that's the franchise model. That's how they built McDonald's. That's how they built all these different things. Right. So Ray Kroc, visionary.
Yeah.
Regional manager. That's the manager. The people who are going to be the lifer at McDonald's, and they just love being there. Just love training people and all that sort of stuff. That's your implementer.
Right.
For sure.
I want to kind of dive into, building a business. And, when we start talking about becoming successful and staying successful, what's easier?
Becoming successful or staying successful? That's a great question, Gary, because you look at some companies, Apple, getting successful, Steve Jobs trying to stay successful. That's more of his, everybody else that came after Steve. It's when companies lose their way, and that's when that's their downfall, right? But you can keep a company going for a long period of time, right? You just got to make sure that you're always focused on the right stuff, right? You got to stay relevant. You got to stay current and up to date. You got to be looking at technology. You got to be looking at what's the competition doing. But at the end of the day, it's all about the customer experience. I was just talking about this with Danielle. So shout out to Danielle. We're running monthly events, and she's the visionary. She's like a tornado.
Yeah.
Right. And just trying to keep up with her. She needs a team behind her to manage things and implement things and all that sort of stuff too. But what's your experience of like a Starbucks versus a Tim Hortons, right? Tim Hortons, they're literally throwing the coffee cup at the window. There's milk and there's coffee flying everywhere. I'm sure there are lots of cloths, and they're mopping it up all the time.
Yeah.
They never ask you how you're doing at the window at Tim Hortons, or if it is, it's rare. But at Starbucks, they actually hire for that. Like they want people on the front, at the cash, at the drive-through. They want those people that are the people to be talking to you at the window, right? And that's why you're paying twice as much at Starbucks.
Yeah, it's the experience
for certain things. It's a customer experience and that relatability. And hey, some people like Starbucks. Some people could care less whether there's milk and coffee flying out there, and they're not giving them warm fuzzies at the window. Some people care about that. So, but who would I bet on? Who could grow more? I'd bet on Starbucks versus Tim Hortons, right?
Right.
Because if the customer experience, they could bring some of what Starbucks is doing into Tim Hortons, and I'm sure Tim Hortons would grow better too, right? So,
yeah.
But what's harder? I'd say for most people, it's probably becoming successful, because there's so many people who just don't get started. But once you have gotten started, as long as they're getting themselves in the right network, the right environments, they're getting some coaching, they're trying to stay relevant, and they're always adapting, they're always nimble, they have the right succession plans. I don't think that's almost like, how much energy does it take to blast off a rocket from the ground versus keep the rocket in orbit? It requires a lot more jet fuel to get it off the ground.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
So many big companies fail, man. It's crazy. Yeah. I worked at one. I worked at Kmart, and I was the one that was disassembling the store when they were going out of business.
Yeah. And well, I think there's two things there, right? So one is, I think you're right in regards to the whole successful piece, because I reminds me of a quote when Jim Rohn said, make the goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, but for the person you'll become to achieve it.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for me to understand at the beginning. I was like, oh, I get it. It's not really about the money. It's like who I become. Because then when you do become successful, if you do become successful, and if you do fail in your
For
business,
the people that are listening to this podcast, it's when you'll become successful.
That's
it's a
right.
matter of not will you or not, or do
Exactly.
when you do.
You can rebuild again. You can come back up from the ashes again because you've been there. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't reinvent myself because I think I remember who it was, Steve Jobs that said this. But you almost got to reinvent yourself every 5 years. And if I take a look back at my business, I'm always been reinventing myself. Like the investing strategy that I did, what's happening in my business today. It's always kind of reinventing yourself
That's
along
why it doesn't
the way.
make sense to make a 5-year business plan. It's good to have a 5-year vision, but 5-year business plan, my gosh.
Yeah, and especially with the way
So much
technology is moving
every single year.
Yeah, and the way that technology is moving right now, like it's so fast, right? So you got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to move with the experience and things that are happening in the world because it's so quick with AI and everything that's happening, right? And so, what challenges have you had in your business, Kory, within the last year? We'll call it even a year and a half. And how have you been able to overcome it? Because I'm sure you've had challenges,
For sure.
right?
Yeah, like we had a lot of people that wanted to. Hey, real estate was like Bitcoin. Everybody wanted a piece of Bitcoin or a piece of real estate, and we weren't selective enough with the people that were coming into our coaching program, right? So, because I'm just one of those people that's like, I want everybody to have access to this, or I want to be able to teach everybody, and we probably should have screened harder, like just to really make sure that like, do you really want to do this, right? Because people that are coming forward now, they're true investors. Like they don't mind as much what the economy is doing. They understand that it's hard work, all those different things. But for people that just want a free ride, no, there is no free ride. There's nothing that is easy. Trust me, like I've been looking for something that's easy since I was like a kid, right? I was looking through my grandparents' Esquire magazines and all these other things. It's like mail order campaigns and all this sort of stuff. It's like, look, even some of the biggest people out there, they're like, I still work a lot of hours. Like it's still a lot of work to be successful. The 4-hour work week, that's great for Tim Ferriss. He still works way more than 4 hours. That's
for sure.
Just like one of his little businesses he was able to optimize. But
right.
So what we're doing differently now is it is about the customer experience. It is about putting money into marketing, and we just want to give free value. I have no issues like people getting some of my best free stuff out there. Because when they're ready to grow and when they actually need the help, they know who to reach out to. Right. So building community, making sure that people have the answers that they need. That's why we're bringing people together, every month. That's why we, just like you, we throw events. Like we just want to bring people together, man. It's, I don't know. It's, I never used to be a super social person when I was young. I was actually like socially awkward. Like I was just that quiet jock. But I always try to get in the room for something, whether it was a sports banquet or a dance or you name it. And we're just missing that more and more these days. You can't connect with someone as much as you can over the phone as you can in person.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Those events that you guys are doing out there, they're incredible. If you haven't been to a Kory MacKinnon event or a Danielle Chasson now, you guys are partners. Yep. You got to go and check it out. These guys are doing great things out there. And it is during these times, this is where you need to go out to these events and learn from some of the great speakers that you're actually putting on stage and learn from them.
Yeah.
What are they doing? How are they doing it? And what are maybe some of the best strategies that are actually working in this particular marketplace right now?
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody's listening right now and they're like, okay, cool. So I want to be successful, Kory, and I've been watching you for a while. How do I do it? Right. What's maybe a first step that you would share with them?
All right. So they want to be successful. Can you give me like in business or in real estate?
We'll say I think either or, just in life.
Okay.
Like just having purpose. What's the first step? What's the first thing? Because so many people get caught up in that hamster wheel and they just keep going and they're just like, this isn't working. I've tried this, I've tried that. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, if someone's thinking like that, how do I be successful? I think that's awesome because you're different.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to be successful. So a lot of people are just okay with just being par for the course and being average. And, I'll work until whenever, and I'll stay in my parents' basement until whenever or whatever. Right. So first of all, recognize that you're different, and that's awesome. We want you to be successful. How do you break out and be different? Well, first of all, you got to start hanging around with different people. and get really clear on what you want, right? A lot of people are just like, they know what they don't want. They can make a list of things. These are all the things I don't want in my life. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's like that actually gets them to what they want, right? So,
Yeah.
because they're so focused on like, man, I just don't like this. I don't like that. Okay, make a list of all that stuff. And then what's the opposite of those things? Okay, these are the things I don't want. Great.
Yeah.
So that actually means that you want more of this, you want more of that, you want more of that. Great. So is that true, right? Let's marry that up with your values now. Great. Now we got some of your superpowers here. Do you believe that those are your superpowers? Yes, I believe that is. Do you really believe that? Is that at your core? Yes, great. So at that point, now we can make a plan. So let's make a plan that's achievable for you. It's going to require burn some midnight oil. But if it's a plan that's driven by passion, right? When it's, people hear that, it's like, oh, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I think they don't really understand what that means because it's very cliche. But when it lines up with your superhero powers, when it lines up with like things that you're passionate about, when it lines up, when you actually believe it, and you've seen other people do it, there's a proof of concept, and it's like, hey, if they did it, I can do it too. Great, let's make that plan now. So I got something to focus on. You've helped me get the bullseye target, and now I got something to focus on. Where is the bullseye? Great. Well, let's start taking some steps every single day towards the bullseye.
Right.
And we might not get there next month or in 3 months from now, but we'll get there. We'll get really far down the road in 12 months, 24 months. Holy crap, 36 months, 60 months. There's a lot of days in a year. There's a lot, when you think of 1,000 days, too many people are thinking like, well, I didn't get the result. It's been 30 days. I give up.
Yeah.
No, start thinking in like 1,000 days.
It's that, what's that book there? Atomic Habits, where it's just those little small increments moving towards the goal that you have.
Totally, man.
It's small steps.
Everything big starts off small,
yeah.
Right? So Gary V's first post got like 6 likes.
Yeah.
He's the biggest influencer in the world now, right? So everything big starts small. It's great to think big, but you got to take small steps there. And even just doing something in life usually requires like 100 or multiple hundreds of steps. So most people's definition of success in life is way too lofty, right? To me, your definition, or the best definition of success that was given to me, was success is any progress towards your goal, right? So if you're making progress, you are freaking winning, man. And yes, there's gonna be other stuff, but it's like, hey, you still checked off 2 or 3 more boxes today towards your goal. You're making progress. Some days you're gonna be able to push harder, right? That's a focus day. You are literally laser focused. You are putting in a big push day. Some days are gonna be like admin days. This is strategic coach speaking now, because I grew up through that kind of like methodology, right? So some days are going to be focus days. Some days are going to be admin days, and then you're going to sharpen the saw. You got to have free days. Just when you're totally off, your phone is on airplane mode. You throw your phone in the friggin' drawer. You're not even checking it, right? You're connecting with family. You're doing things that, you're walking in nature. You don't have a podcast, and you're just thinking, asking yourself questions. You are ready for Monday, right? So. But when you are focused, you're getting 3 times more done, 5 times more done than the average person.
Yeah. And when you are building that business, you do have to burn that midnight oil sometimes.
You do.
And there was a time when I was in it so heavy that is all I could think about. I could just think about, like, I can't wait until I'm actually out to this corporate world, because I'm so in love with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But you got to find that passion.
Yeah, but even for the people listening to this right now, what keeps you up to midnight other than YouTube and podcasts and all that stuff? But what could you work on? What could you build? What is your gift to give to the world, right? We all have a gift. So many people just don't give that gift to the world. Mm-hmm. For me, it's serving other people. For me, it's helping people get through financial pain, and get them to the other side of that of like, hey, I can actually do this, right? The system is not, I've broken out of the system or the matrix or whatever, right? I found a way through assets. What is going to keep you up to like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? For me, I just love helping people. I will stay up till whatever time in the morning to make that impact on someone so they get it, right? The light bulb goes on.
Right. It's actually a race against time. Don't you find that when you're actually writing it, you're like, man, I can't believe I'm running out of time. Like I woke up this morning, went and did yoga. Then I was like, okay, cool. It's like 10 o'clock. I got lots of time left before I got to go sit down and have a podcast with Kory. And I'm like, holy shit. I got to go jump in my car now and go get set up now because I've got so much stuff going on that I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point in your life, it's not only just about the money, it's about also the dream of, and you're going somewhere that you're trying to map out, but it's like, you don't know exactly how it's going to go. It's like driving to Florida at nighttime with your headlights on. You know where you're going, but you don't know every part of the road.
Yeah. And that's why you need people in your life that'll give you that bright light, right? That's your mentors, that's your coaches, that's the people who've done there before, been there before. They will shine the light there, and you'll be like, okay, great. Because you don't want to go to, well, you wouldn't just go and jump in the car and say, okay, well, wherever I end up in 16 hours, where I end up.
Right.
No, you want to be in Florida.
Right.
We got the GPS system and all that sort of stuff to get there. And sometimes we time warp, right? Like sometimes time goes by super fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes time goes by. So time is really an emotion. That's what Tony Robbins says, right? Time is emotion. When you're enjoying your time, it goes by fast. When you're not enjoying your time, it goes by very slow. I'm sure people have ever worked a shift where I just really did not like what I was doing. I remember working retail one time the day after New Year's, and it was like, man, I was hungover. I did not want to be there. Time was moving very slow.
Yeah.
But then there's been times where it's like, holy cow, like this podcast is flying by. It feels like minutes when it's really, it's tens of minutes or it's hours.
Yeah, for sure.
The most important thing is building a team so that when time is moving fast, you're moving even faster. We just had an Instagram live with Darren Voros, and he was just talking about the power of like GCing out your projects through a team. He's like, look, I could save money by doing this myself. I know how to swing hammers. I can bring a crew in or whatever, but like literally today there was 5 electricians on site. There was like 3 guys doing the cement, framing, everything. It's like things are going so much faster. Yes, I'm paying more for it, but it's also my holding costs are over $1,000 a day. We got to get stuff done, so don't be afraid to build that team and get more stuff done too.
Yeah, for sure. Where are you taking your business next? What's kind of your vision, Kory's vision and Danielle's vision with what you guys are doing right now? And what's maybe some of the big obstacles that you see ahead of you?
Yeah, so what we're building, we really want to go across Canada. I've already had my coaching has impacted people all across
awesome.
Canada, from BC to the East Coast.
Yeah,
I guess we haven't had too many people. Haven't really mentored people in Saskatchewan, but we've hit a lot of the different provinces, and eventually we want to go into the States here too. So we want to make sure that people understand the power of assets, and we want to build those communities all across Canada. We're starting here in the GTA, one of the biggest markets in Canada, which is important. And we're just building a ton of valuable content. So people need this information. They need to know the playbooks. They need to know how to actually get out there and execute. Mm-hmm. You could try to learn all this stuff from YouTube, but it's also a matter of like, it takes a really special person to learn stuff from YouTube and actually go do it all themselves. They need accountability. They need a community. They need, if they need a quick answer, like that's why I have almost 200 people in our Telegram community. If they have an answer or a question, we're here to give them an answer quickly. So you just keep moving on the path as fast as they can. Just letting more people know about what's possible.
Right. And that vision that you've got, it's to help people get into real estate investing, but also to help them believe in themselves and design a life. Is that kind of
get control of their time? Yeah. Start to see that snowball effect of like, yeah, you got to play the long game, but you can also play the fast game too. You got, in real estate, you have different speeds of money, right? You got the slower money. That's like, okay, I'm going to go buy a multifamily. That's like, you can't get rich quick from multifamily unless you can, but it's like, recycling money, burning it, buying something undervalued, fixing up quick, pulling out the money, refinancing, all that sort of stuff. But for the most part, once it's stabilized, that is slow money. Right, you got faster money, and they got medium speed money. So teaching them the different benefits of that as well is important. And whether it's mindset, accountability, getting them out of this funk that they're in right now, getting them into rooms, it's so important. But we just, at the end of the day, we just want to serve and help people.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great vision and dream. We're getting kind of close to the end here.
I thought we were gonna go for like 3 hours, like
we could if you want. No. You could if you want. We're gonna get that other bottle out there, Kory.
That's right.
What's the best and the worst day that's happened to you? I get a little personal here with Kory.
Yeah, best day. Best days are always spent with great people. Similar mindset, that growth mindset. They get it, right? They're like, hey. Everybody's going through the trenches. I had a phone call with the other, just on the way up here with one of my friends. He wants to go rent some space for me and stuff like that. And I just, it's like, hey, it's taking a few days to get back to me. I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? Like, I got hit with COVID. I think the whole family got hit with COVID. Then, stomach bug, and then some floods to the basements, and then like this and that, you name it. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's all good, man. This is actually just showing that I need more help on my team. I need people I can pitch things to. It's like, hey, this happened. can you take care of it? Can you, so I'm actually doing interviews for more admin staff and all that other sort of stuff. So those are great days. Were bad days, or I don't know. There's not too many bad days, but maybe days that just weren't as productive, weren't as focused. So it just goes to show that, like, hey, even the best people don't always have a plan for that day, and things can get off the rails. Or for me, it's like when I don't get enough sleep, and then I'm a little more easy to trigger.
Yeah.
A little bit of a shorter fuse, but that can happen when you have 4 kids at home that are on age 11.
Yeah.
But there's really no terrible days, man. Because not every day can be a great day, right? It's like we're not epic winning every single day.
Yeah.
You have to realize that there is an ebb and a flow. And I look back at my sporting career. How many days a week could I actually go heavy? Maybe twice.
Yeah.
So how many days can I push really hard in business? Maybe twice. The other days are great, and I'm still outperforming 90% of the population. But those days where you're pushing hard, you are getting so much further ahead of, you work a 16, 18-hour day. You don't even, it's like nothing, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that every day. You're going to burn out. So people have to realize that.
Yeah. And sometimes those worst days that you do have end up becoming your best days later on in life, where you can reflect back at it and look at it and saying, man, I learned something very valuable for it. And I think I've told you this story. I've told you the story at your event. It was when we lost, my mother and Darlene's mom. And it was a tough time in our life, but man, it allowed me to reflect on what's really important in my life. And then that's when I decided to do those mini vacations. Yeah, I get it. I can make more money. I get it. I understand that. But I also know that time is limited. And it was a bad time in my life, but it turned into something good. Yep. And share that message, right? And so thanks for sharing.
Yeah, sometimes the big stuff is, I don't want to say it's easier to figure out, but it's big and you just realize, wow, it's big. Sometimes those little things that are just gnawing at you, those are the hard things sometimes, because you can't always control them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like sometimes life is going to give you the pause button, and just be grateful, be blessed, and just remember, like, we really don't have problems. There are so many people in this world that they would kill to have a quarter of what you have.
Mm-hmm.
They would kill to have some of the problems. All of our problems are blessings, and there are opportunities to grow, right?
Yeah,
for sure. It's like, and when people can actually flip the switch on that and go, wow, this is an interesting challenge. Like they're challenges and our problems, right? They are challenges. These are things to work through. And I think when you get exposed, or when there's cracks in the armor or whatever, it's like, wow. When things are just a little bit off, it's not a big deal. You usually don't do things about it. When things actually break and you got to fix them, that's when you actually get to work and fix them, right?
Yeah. What's we're getting close to the end here, but what's one of maybe the best advice that you ever received? Maybe it's one or two where it just completely changed Kory MacKinnon. Like, damn, I get it now. This is what I've got to do with my life. This is what I've got to kind of move forward with.
Yeah, a couple things would be when I did Landmark. So I've done the Landmark Forum.
I haven't done that. I heard it's good. Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
The world is empty and meaningless until you attach meaning to it. So if I had that thing from the Man in Black and I could just wipe out your brain, you wouldn't really have much context about anything, right? It's like, but no, we get inputs from our parents and our teachers and our friends and this and that and negative Nancy and all those different things. And then all of a sudden we start jumping on that bandwagon too. It's like, no. The meaning I attach to life is my experience in life. And like stop caring so much about what other people think about you, unless they're people that you really respect and admire. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of free seats, man. There's a lot of keyboard warriors, or whatever you want to call them, right?
Yeah.
And when you're not always going to your message is not going to land with everybody, right? But the people it does, those are the ones that you should actually spend your time, effort, and energy on, right? There's going to be people that love and support what you're doing. Go spend your energy on that. There's going to be people that don't know what you're doing. There's going to be people that don't resonate with you, with what you're doing. So ignore them. The people that don't know what you're doing, try to let them know what you're doing. And then the people that love, support, and encourage you, man, go spend the time, effort, whether they're family or friends or not, spend your time there in that bucket.
I agree. Yeah. Keyboard warriors. I haven't heard that one before. I like that though. A
lot of courage behind a keyboard, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. I heard this one quote. I love it so much. I keep saying it is, criticism is a result of unmet needs. And that's when you're scrolling and you see somebody, maybe you like it at first and you like them and they're like, but they're so successful. And then you start to hate on them. And it's because it's almost like a mirror, it's like a reflection of what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
Because you see them doing good, and now you start to hate on them. And then those keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, put that into curiosity. Like, I'm curious, how did they get so successful? You know, what was their path? Like, how hard did they work? How much did they spend to get there? You know, be curious, right? Instead of critical.
Yeah.
It's important.
I agree. Any last words of advice before we wrap it up?
You know, guys, we will get through this here, and it's important to, you know, just be blessed. Focus on gratitude. I wish I would have focused on gratitude earlier, like in my 20s. I started focusing on gratitude when I was in my 30s and 40s. Be grateful for what you have, and always look for the positive in things. Even if you're around negative people, even when things don't go your way, don't take a negative context to it. Just go, wow, I am learning a lot from this right now. And, you know, you're either negative or you're positive. You can be influenced by positive people. Get around more positive people.
Yeah.
Start to get those negative people out of your life. And, you know, 2024 is going to be better than 2023, 2025 even better. But you make your own destiny, right? You go put your flag in the sand. You go draw a line in the sandbox. You say, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I know that I can keep moving forward. I can do better. Anybody can make a side hustle, man. I know a guy that was making $10,000 flipping cell phones, right?
Yeah.
He'd go buy them. It's all about buying low, selling higher, fixing things up, creating value in the process. People flip couches, people flip, you know, cars. Like, you know, there's opportunity out there. Just go find it. Go find out what's really passionate with you, line it up, and go make it happen.
Kory, if people want to learn more about you and come check out one of your events, how do they do that? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, just go to KoryMacKinnon.com, send me a DM on Instagram, whatever. Sign up for the mailing list in my Linktree bio. Yeah, pretty easy to find, pretty easy to stay in touch with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kory, I'm glad you came in and did this with me, man, live. Honestly, I know we were talking about doing
I heard about the mystery of having a drink with Gary and having a conversation. This has been fun.
You got to do it with me. You got to do a scotch with me, man, or a drink with me. I enjoy it because it helps kind of, I think, break down some of the barriers sometimes. You know, maybe trip over your word a little bit from time to time, but it's all good.
Yeah. This is my first meal of the day right here.
There you go, brother.
Everybody. Thanks for listening here, gang. If you listen right to the very end, you know, keep listening to Gary's episodes. He is such a kind spirit to have on, and I'm glad we filmed that episode. My podcast is going to be coming out soon too. So
awesome. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Cheers, everybody.
All right. Take care.